Game over. Warning. Incoming. Game over.
And a happy game over crossover to everyone who's watching. My name's Conrad Krausert, and joining me today from your Game Over Toronto, a little bit happier to be on the show today, is Dominic. Dominic, enjoy your 2 points on the Western Road Swing.
I'm going to enjoy the 2 points and the 3 goals from, as you said it before, Calgary's own William Nylander. So, yes, exciting one for the Leafs, but I feel for the Flames fans after that one, especially after Toronto invaded the Saddle Dome the way that the Leafs fans did tonight.
You make mention of that, and I guess that'll transition. Since the Toronto fans always take over the Saddle Dome, I figure I might as well get us going. That's the Game Over Toronto stream. Oh my goodness. But before we go any further, I do want to take some time to mention a legend of both the Flames and Toronto. This is the 1-year anniversary of the heart attack suffered by both a legend in the blue and white and with the Flaming Sea, Lanny McDonald. Lanny, we are so happy you're still with us. Thank you so much to the 2 nurses who responded at the Calgary International Airport to ensure that that hockey legend is still with us today. Obviously, still the head of all the duties that he does over with the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and just an all-around ambassador for the game. So just a thank you to all the health professionals who ensured that that great mustache is still with us here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Lanny's an icon of both teams. I love seeing him whenever he's around in Toronto. He comes in every year, obviously, for the Hall of Fame festivities. And one of my favorite things to do around Hall of Fame weekend is the Hall of Fame does their alumni game at Scotiabank Arena. And at that game, Lanny presents all of the new inductees with their Hall of Fame jackets. And it's always just like a really great moment. And he is still such a character, even this year, coming off of what he went through. He's still just such a warm and wonderful personality out there on the ice, whether he's playing or giving people a jacket.
Yeah, Eric Francis said it doesn't get on the ice as much these days with following the advice of his medical team, but glad to have him around the game. But before we go to talk about the game that we saw take place today, just got to shout out our friends over at Hyperdrive Hockey. Shipped into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey. Bring a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Oop, Daphne Melbouf, and Kevin Larmé every Tuesday and Friday for your fill of news from around the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network host channel, or subscribe to whatever podcatcher you use, whether it be Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. And head on over to the website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Remember, with that show, Hyperdrive Hockey, give them a like, give them a follow, give them a nice comment. It helps with the algorithm. As well, go hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the Game Over Calgary and Toronto feeds, as I'm sure you want to hear more about both of these teams. All right, so I didn't pull up my NHL.com breakdown because I'm not used to this. I took a week off, went to Hawaii, and now I'm just all kinds of rusty on how to get my preparation in. But the Flames actually opened the scoring in this one. The official scoring, of course, there were 2 goals called back. John Tavares with the blade of his stick over the crossbar, not the whole stick, just the toe that made contact with the puck. That goal gets called back, and then was it
Farabee?
Oh, it was Farabee's goal that gets called back because Huberdeau got a stick into the pads after the puck was already through wool, in my opinion. That goal gets called back. I'm sure neither of us works for in Toronto in the replay room, but it's become to a point where it's almost like I don't even want to know what the rule book says, because it's just a spinning wheel of, did the contact occur in the blue paint? Oh, it's automatically not a goal. And then with Huberdeau was his contact outside the blue paint. Doesn't matter. Still not a goal. So nobody knows what the rules are anymore, which makes this sport extra infuriating, especially when you had 8 minutes of hockey and let's call it about 12 minutes of video replay.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when it takes that long, you kind of have to wonder. You kind of have to wonder. And, you know, in the end, because each team had a goal taken back, it all sort of comes out in the wash. And we can kind of just sort of look at it and go, all right, it is what it is. Start over basically at 0-0. But the amount of time it takes, you do kind of wonder. You want the rules to be clear. You want them to be concise. You want it to be obvious to everybody who's watching. Was that a goal? Was that not a goal? And as it stands right now, it feels a little, it's this way one week, this way another week, like you were saying.
Which is, we're the hardcores. We love this sport, and we will love it till the day we die, probably. Mm-hmm. It makes it so hard for casual fans of the sport. My parents are season ticket holders. They joined me in Hawaii. They handed off their tickets to a first-time fan for the last game. And we were getting text messages when we were off for dinner in Hawaii, like trying to ask her questions about rules. So it just makes it so hard for you to engage new viewers when the rules are as nebulous as they are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just it. And I want them to do replay. I want them to take the time to get it right. I want them to be sure. But either of these goals could have gone the other way. And I would have gone, yeah, okay, sure. Whereas they went the way they did, and I went, yeah, okay, sure. That makes sense. And, the Matthew Nyes goal later in the game, perhaps the challenge that got away for Calgary. Again, if they had challenged it, I'm sort of looking at it thinking probably that's okay. But if they had have challenged it, looked at it and said, actually no goal, I wouldn't have been totally surprised either.
Luke Venables chipping in here. Obviously, hockey is a vibes-based sport. It's probably true, but I still would like the rules to be a little bit more black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's true.
So we'll call it going into the Matt Coronado goals with both teams at -1 on the goal counter. Matt Coronado, who's kind of been one of those feel-good stories for us as Flames fans, just bounces his first shot attempt off the leg of former Flame Chris Tanev in his first return to the Saddledome, and then picks up the rebound and tosses it over the outsprawled shot blocking machine and gets his 14th of the year on the power play. I think we're going to say that a few more times as this game progresses, but
not just on the power play, on the 5-on-3 power play.
Correct. Is one of two the Flames had on the night. Puck over the glass. At least that one's pretty black and white.
Yeah,
for the second
that's like
penalty.
That's the one rule, pretty much. Shoot the puck over the glass 99 times out of 100. You're getting a penalty on it, unless it's tipped or whatever. But yeah, that one's pretty clear. Credit to the Flames for not relenting on this power play, because one of the things that the Leafs have done pretty well this season is their penalty kill has been pretty good, and they've handled 5-on-3,
which is shocking considering how bad your special teams coached the Flames special teams last year. But I digress.
We've had questions about him too, although things might be turning around with the power play as well. But the Leafs have handled the 5-on-3 pretty well this year, and this one was just it was almost 2 minutes. It was 1:52 of 5-on-3. McCabe shoots the puck over the glass 8 seconds into the penalty, and the Leafs held off for a pretty long time. Like, under normal circumstances, a 5-on-3 is not that long, and they stopped one or two pretty good scoring chances for the Flames just on sheer will of Chris Tanev in particular. Thanks for him, by the way.
Yeah, we're happy. We're happy he's doing well, but a little sore.
Yeah. So, but a lesser team in that situation might have gotten a little bit discouraged, might not have continued to be as relentless. And a criticism that I think that we've levied at the Leafs power play is that sometimes if they don't get their goal in the first minute, sometimes it feels like the whole thing falls apart. And so to see a team just be as relentless as the Flames were on this play, I'm like, yes, that's it. That's what you got to do.
I don't know how many of us in our are in our Discord, but watching me just telling Nazem Kadri to shoot the puck finally happens, and he got 2 assists because he shot the puck today. So I don't know. I need to get my crystal ball out more, apparently. But yeah, Kadri's shot led to the puck eventually getting over. And of course, like, this has kind of been the lifeblood of this Flames team when they've gotten struggling, is that combination of Huberdeau and Kadri just kind of being able to start being the players that we paid them to be, coming off of the Flames' big transition away from the late Johnny Gaudreau and obviously the Tkachuk trade. So they're finally starting to live up to that change of character, we'll say. Because this is obviously Toronto fans. This is your first time to see the Flames, and same vice versa, unless you watch Toronto Sports Network at all. But sorry, it's a Western Canadian joke.
No, you got to make it. You got to make it.
But yeah, so first time for both teams seeing each other. But that takes us through the first period. And then it turns into the Willie Styles show. He gets his first on the power play. Just well-worked puck control by the top line. Of course, assist to Eisen Matthews, and an absolute howitzer that I don't think, even if Dustin Wolf was 6'4", I don't think he's getting across to get to that one.
Yeah, and this goal and then the Tavares goal that follows it up, the 2 power play goals from the Leafs. This is what Leafs fans have been looking for from this top unit, because I think if this is all you've seen of the top unit, you look at that and go, oh, wow, that's scary. That's what you expect from a line that has Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Willie Nylander on it. And normally, Mitch Marner, of course, missed this game.
Undisclosed injury.
Yeah, mysterious lower body injury. But the power play for a lot of this year for the Leafs, in particular that top unit, has looked very listless. They have not done a lot of good things. They kind of wait for the perfect opportunity instead of making opportunities. And this power play, this version of the power play that we saw tonight, is the best version of it. And they created the opportunities. They moved the puck quickly. They got chances. And we see the results right here with the Nylander goal, and then right after it, the Tavares goal, not too much longer.
And I have to say, this is the Flames playing without one of their top D-men this year, and Kevin Ball. He's out with an upper body injury. Having that 6'4" frame out there on the penalty kill has covered up a lot of holes, and I think Joel Hanley might have been on the ice for both. No, Bean was on for the first one. So this is a patchwork decor for the Flames right now. And I was in a lot of conversations with other Flames fans, and we're just thinking there needs to be a couple of reassignments of some of our defense depth. And this almost sounds like I'm talking like the Leafs of last year, like where you can't, you have 4 defense D-man number 7 and no defenseman 4 through 6. But if playing against the Flame is the cure that ails this Toronto power play, at least we'll get a hat tip at the end of the year, I hope.
I mean, what I've gathered from what you just said there is that maybe don't read too much into this game and just go, the power play is fixed, we are good. Maybe this was not the best example, or not the best litmus test for this version of the power play.
If I recall, the Flames were 22nd in power play coming into this game, so let's temper the expectations, Toronto.
Ease back a little bit. Okay, fair enough.
And also, as Anad Unathan, one of our other hosts, is saying in chat, Anad's been working with Sportsnet 960 here on his internship, so he's had a few more inside scoops than most of us recently. And from what I've heard, he might, meaning Michael Backlund, might actually be banged up. And so he's one of the guys we've relied upon to win face-offs and kill a lot of these penalty kill minutes. So if he's also not playing at 100%, could also be another layer onto why our power play was shoddy at best, to play tonight. So yeah, nothing major to keep him out of the lineup, but Four Nations break will be important for him. We'll come back to that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But then another power play goal, this time for the Flames. Igor Sharangovich, who is finally, after a slow start to the year, is starting to contribute. Power play goal from Weegar and Kadri. Again, another 5-on-3 that ends up scoring. Let's be honest, this is Mackenzie Weegar with the fraction of a tip off the stick of Igor Sharangovich.
I still don't see where Sharangovich got this. Like, I've seen the replay a couple of times. And I'm like, that's Weegar's goal. That has to be his goal. Like, where? And where did it touch him? Where did it change direction at all?
I will say this about Sharky, that is the nickname for Igor Sharangovich, or Lego Man. He is one of those guys that goes to the iPad. Oh, he loves Lego. That was the whole thing he was posting, like, during the offseason, was him with these, like, he built that Titanic Lego set, like the gigantic one.
Incredible.
So
suddenly I'm okay with this being his goal.
Yeah. So he was saying it just got a tiniest piece of it. So, but he stole a couple goals. He stole an empty netter from Jonathan Huberdeau 2 weeks ago too. So he's kind of got a little bit of a thief streak running in him.
Because I mean, like, Farabee's goal, the one that counts later, is another one where his stick is just kind of there. And it was going to go in the net anyways, but it goes off him. But, like, obviously it plainly hit his stick. You can see it on the replay. Everybody, you can tell that's a goal. That's his. I get it. Sharangovich, I don't know. It look good for him. Pump up the stats. Check it on the iPad. But that's credit for that goal goes to Mackenzie Weegar. And I think anybody watching realizes that.
And then I think we can kind of talk about the next string of Leafs goal in the same string as each other. A couple of terrible pinches that end up in 3-on-1s, and you had the Bobby McMahon advantage on the first one, and Willie Stiles on the second, where it's actually, I think it was Jake Bean trying to race back, and there was some chat going on behind the second William Nylander goal between Rasmus Andersson and Nazem Kadri. Andersson saying, Naz, you were supposed to pinch back when you see me coming off the blue line, and Naz gave it back, and I'm sure that's zero surprise to Toronto Maple Leafs fan that Nazem Kadri had a bit of fire after being called out by his teammate. But yeah, both very similar goals. Flames needed to push and just get caught with too many men behind the puck.
Yeah, and they were both goals like where you had. You know, it was a 2-on-1 for McMahon. I think it was kind of a 3-on-1 for Willie. And
it was a 3-on-1 for both. 64. Who was that for the Leafs? Where's my brain today? It was a true 3-on-1 on McMahon's goal too.
Perfect. Love it. But both times the guy who did most of the puck carrying wound up shooting it, and they were just nice shots. And two of the better shots on the team. I mean, you look at the guys, like McMahon was with Lorentz, and I think Kampf would be the third one.
Yes.
Neither of those guys have a shot that compares to Bobby McMahon's shot. Bobby McMahon's got a pretty sweet shot, and then even his shot doesn't compare to Willie Nylander's shot. So it's kind of give the puck to the best shooter, and then just look like you could be there in
Patches
case
was
they
in
decide
the
to
area
pass
code
off.
there, like could have happened.
Yeah, true. But
Well,
it was
and Johnny T was on the other side, so you have to.
you got to respect it.
Yeah,
Got to respect it.
But
But
after
just,
that
you know,
fourth goal, there was a lot of calls in Flames Nation that we might have seen the last of Dustin Wolf for the night, because this is the first game in Dustin Wolf's NHL career, or first time in his NHL career. He's lost back-to-back starts.
Really?
Up until this point, he had been perfect after wins. So, at least in this season. I'm not going to go back to the previous season. Taking that from Sportsnet stats, so let's take it with a grain of salt. But his first time losing back-to-back this year, and I don't know. I might have liked to see you've kind of preserved the mental of your now 1A starter in Dustin Wolf, but obviously didn't see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is, like you said, the Flames are in kind of an interesting position where they're not quite rebuilding, but they're not, but they are like, they definitely have an eye very firmly on the future. And I think this is maybe a time when you look at someone like Dustin Wolf, who is, in the conversation for the Calder Trophy, and look at him and go, okay, show us what you got, not necessarily in this game, but the next game. Like, are you going to bounce back from this? You've been so good and so strong. You have that fun howl that plays when he makes a big save in the arena. I loved that. I hadn't heard that before. I was so into that. I want to go to a game at the Saddle Dome just to hear that. So but you've been hyping this guy up. You've been building him up, which is great. Now he's hit a little bit of adversity. Let's see where he bounces back to, whether he gets the next game or whatever his next game is. That's the real test, I think, of these guys is, not just how do you play when you're winning, but how do you bounce back from not just one loss, but a couple of losses. So that's the next big test for Dustin Wolf, and we'll see how he responds.
And then the Matthew Nyes, kind of the dagger goal in this one. A lot of work done by number 34, Austin Matthews. Gets it past Wolf. Puck kind of sits in no man's land. And Nyes knifes it home, and that put it to 5-2 at the time.
Yeah. I think Matthews really wanted to score in this one, and this was his 600th career game. He wound up with 3 assists, so it's kind of hard to be too upset about it. But he really went for it on this one with some nice moves, and Dustin Wolf showing why he is so highly touted at this point in his career. Makes the initial save on one of the best goal scorers in the world, if not the best goal scorer in the world, and the puck is just kind of sitting there, and you'd hope, if you're Wolf, that your defense can swoop in there and clear it away. And they did kind of keep Domi out of there. And that leads into the question of whether or not the Flames should have reviewed it. But Matthew Nyes comes diving in to just poke it home.
And it was a broken play from the Flames too. Like, it bounces off. It's not Farabee. It was Connor Frost's skate to start the whole play. And as I said in our chat, like, the Flames are kind of checked out at that point, I thought.
Yeah, they maybe it did kind of seem that way, but the elephant in the room here is we've had two goals come back already. The Flames score 18 seconds later. Do you look at not challenging this goal as the one that got away? If it's still 4-2 when Farabee gets his goal, and all of a sudden it's 4-3. Like, then those last minutes with the 6-on-5, as exciting as they were, even before Nylander's goal, is there even more there? So I don't know.
So I can't remember. Your video coach is 4 for 4 on the year. Jamie Pringle, who is our video coach, has only missed once this year, and that was in a Seattle game that was kind of out of reach. Anyways, I think he says not to challenge it. The Flames are in the right to not challenge. He's one of those elite video coaches, and if he says there's a chance that it doesn't happen and you want to keep it within striking distance, you have to decide to swallow your pride and say, yeah, that was the call on the ice.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. I mean, I feel the same way with the Leafs video coaches. Like, they get these things right almost all the time. And so if anybody's going to understand it, but there is also, like I said, there is part of me that thinks if I'm on the Calgary bench and it's 5-2 and it's feeling like it's out of reach anyways, if this counts, obviously we don't have the flag to throw in hockey the way they do in football, but I'm tempted just to go, screw it, let's try, and hope it's one of those weird ones where the refs are like, oh no, actually, yeah, the stick was in the way and it did spin him around, and it wasn't because of the Flames defenseman, it was because of what Max was up to. And so there's a version of it, there's a more chaotic version of hockey that maybe they try that, but ultimately, yeah, you go with what the guy upstairs is saying because he's been making the right calls.
Yeah, and then Joel Farabee answers back in the puck don't lie sweepstakes. Held in well at the line from Weegar, then the Huberdeau shot bounces off Farabee. Leads to an exciting last few minutes, but at the end of the day, William Nylander gets to a open puck, and the Calgarian tacks home. I think they said it was his 3rd hat trick of the career.
Second.
Oh, it was second?
No.
Second hat trick. It was his dad that has 3 in his career, former Flame. He has 2, and the younger brother has 1, so...
There it is. Yeah, it was his second of his career, and his only other one also happened on February 4th.
Oh, really?
Several years ago against the Boston Bruins. Yeah, so kind of a good day to be a Nylander. At least a good day to be Willie Nylander.
But yeah, Willie Styles styled his way past the Flames, and that's your game recap featuring a little bit of talk about all things hockey in that one. But before we head to period number 2 in this Flames and Leafs crossover, we got another little message for you at home. Looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young Canadian journalists and analysts? We got a couple ways for you. If you have a few spare bucks kicking around, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scene, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us feedback, and you can join us for special shows live where you can interact extra with the hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. And a reminder, we're all Canadian. There's no trade war here. If you want to spend some of your embargoed dollars, we are more than glad to help change the Canadian landscape. If you're not able to spare that few dollars, though, we do have a free tier available so you don't miss out. And if you really want to help us, make sure to hit like and subscribe on this YouTube video and head over to that Toronto channel. They got more likes and subscribers than we do, but give them that click as well. Rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app and share our work on the social media of your choice. Hopefully just not that one that uses a giant X as a symbol. If you want that Patreon link, again, it's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for those tantalizing goodies. All right. But period 2, we kind of wanted this to be the let's get a little bit negative about our own teams. Because there is some disappointments down the roster. I'll let you start off with a guy you said maybe could have had his play reviewed to bring back a goal tonight, and that is not Ty, but Max Domi.
Yeah, Max Domi. Yeah, Max Domi is someone who was brought into Toronto with a lot of excitement because of, a lot of our memories about his dad and the good times that were there. And, he is a very talented player and has shown that in his career. And he got off to a bit of a slow start last year, but picked it up in the back half. And in the final stretch of the season, you had this kind of interesting line of Matthews, Domi, and Tyler Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi is now off wherever the heck he is now. And this
Chicago, I think, still, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Tonight's game was the first time in quite some time we've seen Domi and Matthews play together.
And that's because of necessity, not out of anything else.
Exactly, yeah. Marner goes down, so you try Max up there and you see what you can do, because Marner and Domi they're both pass first guys. And that's a very good thing to have around someone like Austin Matthews, who is very much a shoot first guy. Although he can make a surprisingly good pass here and there when he feels like it. And I don't think Domi necessarily. I don't think he made the most of this opportunity. I don't think he wasn't bad. He wasn't poor, but he didn't sort of grab the opportunity the way you wanted it to.
Didn't
Matthews
take the bull by the horns, so to say.
Exactly. Yeah, Matthews wanted to score in this one. Like I said, it's his 600th game. He wants a goal in there. And the closest he comes is kind of an individual effort when he goes charging in on goal that resulted in the Nyes goal. And Domi was just kind of there. He seemed like he was along for the ride with the two boys from Arizona. So, we'll see how long Marner is out. I think Marner really wants to play in the Four Nations. He'll probably be back pretty soon. But if Domi gets another chance up in that spot, I think he really does need to grab the bull. This is his opportunity to show it, because he signed a multi-year extension, and with the cap going up, it's the dollar number is going to hurt less and less. But he's around. He's sticking around for a while, and he's got to prove that he has a spot on this team. And for as many good vibes as he brings, and he does bring good vibes, he's not backing that up with the kind of play on the ice that we need to see from him. He's just kind of been there all season.
You're kind of speaking a similar way that us as Flames fans talked about Andrei Kuzmenko. Like, great in the room. We'd love to have him in the room. He was always smiling, was a great interview, but wasn't producing in the way his contract needed him to, and obviously he's now plying
No
his
longer
trade in the land of the brotherly love down in Philly. So I'm going to take this torch of guys who came in with a lot of promise and a lot of fanfare because he was loved in New York, but is getting statistically caved in as a Flame, and that is Kevin Rooney. He is playing, our fourth line is playing 5 minutes a night. Let's call it what it is. Like, I'm looking at his line mates, and Ryan Lomberg played 5:51. Adam Klapka played 5:53. And Kevin Rooney played 7 minutes. That's bumped up because he is playing on the power or penalty kill for whatever reason. I guess to have another center out there who can't win a face-off to save his life. But it's just awful. Like, he 44% on the face-off dot. Sure. Okay. That's not good enough if that's what you're being called in to do. And he's not even going in as a primary face-off taker. Like, he's out there usually with Nazem Kadri or Michael Backlund, who are both vastly superior centers. I guess it's, if one of them gets tossed, you have someone who knows how to take a face-off. But just his possession numbers are terrible. The goals, the expected goals for opponents when he's on the ice is so high, and his Corsi for is so gosh darn low. This man needs to go have a seat with the Calgary Wranglers for a few weeks.
Ooh.
But if he goes on, because at this point, like, people are like, oh, someone might claim it on waivers. Good. At this point, I will happily, hey, Rangers, you're down there in the waiver claims. If you guys want him back, you can take him.
He's all yours. There you go.
But
yeah.
And his line mates aren't helping. Adam Klapka, as I said, he's 6'8" for a reason. He's out there trying. And who else was I saying was out there with him today? Oh, of course, Lomberg, who took a terrible penalty.
So that I was trying to think, like, why is Rooney standing out to me? What happened? What did he do in this game?
He got rocked.
That it is. He got rocked by McCabe, and then Lomberg took the penalty in retaliation. Because I was frantically going through my notes here trying to figure out I know I wrote down Rooney at one point because that's the name of the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I always remember that name anytime I hear it. So I'm like, why am I thinking of it? And of course, McCabe rocked him.
Yeah, when your lone highlight is you getting absolutely demolished by I'm just done with our fourth line. Like, if you're playing them 5 minutes a night, I'd rather see them play 0 minutes a night and run 9 forwards. At this point, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, and this is not the first time we brought this up, especially if you watch me and Matt DeMille. We've maybe pushed this one in the nose into the stain a little bit too much. But I'll hand it back over to you because I know you had one more name you wanted to get to in front of this.
Yeah, the other name I want to bring up, and this is somebody who I think actually showed some signs of life in this game, and that's Morgan Rielly. Morgan Rielly has been kind of the Leafs' top defenseman for the last several years, right? Probably close to a decade now. He's been around. He's a veteran. He shares a letter, I think, at this point with Marner. Although for many years there, he was when Tavares was the captain, Matthews and Marner would share an A, and then Rielly was the consistent other A. So he's a leader on this team. Again, he's an important part of this team, but for as many guys that have seemed to have had some success under Craig Berube, Rielly has been one guy who feels like he's taken a bit of a step back. He's not been used as much on the power play because they've largely been going with this 5 forwards thing. Tonight he was back out there because Marner's out. And he hasn't been producing offense in the way that he's expected to. He is an offensive defenseman. Part of the reason they went out and got Chris Tanev is because they needed someone to take more of the load defensively. And there was some thought that Rielly and Tanev might play together, but that's been kind of abandoned in favor of Tanev and McCabe. But Rielly is just kind of, again, he's been another guy who's just sort of been there this season.
I wouldn't call him a cardio merchant, but he's a step up from that, but not by much.
Yeah, he hasn't been producing or defending in the way that you need your top defenseman to do so. And I don't know if tonight he was finally given the green light just to be himself a little bit, but he was jumping up in the plays. He was getting involved. He was making some pretty good passes. I don't know if he wound up with any points. I don't think he did.
I can
But
help with this.
yeah, but he was much more engaged in the game, and I think, and he was engaged in the offensive zone, which is where he is his most dangerous as
Morgan
an offensive
Rielly
defenseman.
was credited with an assist and +3 tonight. So
There you go. Yeah, so some signs of life here. If he can keep this up through the next couple of games through Seattle and Vancouver and take it into the break, I think that's a good sign. Because Rielly, when the Leafs succeed in the playoffs, the one time of recent memory, Rielly was a big part of that. He was a big part of that. He scored a game-winning goal in that Tampa series, like an overtime one. He was big part of some of those games and some of those comebacks in that series. And he was on the ice for Tavares' winning goal and creating chaos in front of the net that allowed that puck to go in. So much so that if anybody's seen or heard the Joe Bowen call of the goal, he thought it was Morgan Rielly, and the guy in the truck picking the camera thought it was Morgan Rielly that scored it. Because if you watch the Sportsnet broadcast of it, Tavares scores and they immediately cut to Rielly celebrating, even though it was JT's goal. So if the Leafs are going to succeed, and if the Leafs are going to succeed in the playoffs, Morgan Rielly has to be a big part of that. And I think Craig Berube and the coaching staff need to find a way to unleash that potential, unleash his real talents. And I think tonight we started to see what is hopefully a positive step in that direction, because he's been a step above a cardio merchant, a step above just being there, but he hasn't been providing the sort of play that this team needs from him to succeed. But tonight, like I said, saw good things. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
So let's talk about another former Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman. I'm going to have to do this to him. I think it's time for some bye-bye Barry. As, oh my goodness, were all three of the Flames' seventh defensemen tonight a special kind of special. It was not my favorite game. And Barry has been sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint. He's been eating a lot of popcorn prior to that. And let's look at the Flames' sixth defenseman tonight, shall we? Rasmus Andersson, one of the top pairing defenders of all time, even though he's a -3 on the night tonight. Yikes. Gonna go play for Team Sweden in the Four Nations face-off. He's written in pen in your lineup sheet every day of the week for 32 teams in the NHL. Only other guy you can say was a guy who had 2 assists today, Mackenzie Weegar. If you have the name written in pen, had an impressive game today. Ends the game even, but we all know plus minus is a flawed stat, so I'm not going to go too much further than that. Then it's the, I call him the elite 5th defenseman in Braden Pahal. He's the only other Flames defender that I have any confidence with, knowing we have an injury going on. But then it's Tyson Barrie, Jake Bean, Joel Hanley, and not in the lineup today was Dennis Maramanov. That's... do I need to say anymore? Do you know any of those names, as somebody who doesn't watch Calgary Flames hockey on a regular basis?
You lost me after Tyson Barrie. You lost me after that. And that was mainly just, you say that name, if I find myself shivering in a corner.
Yeah, it's not good. As I said, we had 3 seventh defensemen in the lineup today. And we have a bunch of guys down in the Wranglers camp that have shown promise, but there's just such a veteran logjam in front of them that they haven't gotten chances. Guys that have been clamored for a while, the likes of Emile Poirier, a man who did absolutely nothing but score goals and play solid in the OHL last year, and Hunter Brustevich. Maybe he's a little young to get the call up, but Artem Grushnikov's been playing well. Ilya Solovyov has been doing great work. If you want to call a veteran up, hey, Jared Tenorti's actually been one of the best defenders in the AHL this year. That's probably a name that you're like, I signed him once as a 7th defenseman on NHL 2020. But yeah, he's doing well. Jan Kuznetsov, another young guy who's been ready for a while. And then, hey, let's even put that all the way down to Jonathan Asperout. These guys are NHL ready, but I don't know what dirt all these 7th defensemen have on Craig Conroy, but oh my God, it needs to be a waiver wire yesterday for some of these defensemen, and we'll get bye-bye Barry off the screen here.
Say bye-bye to bye-bye
Oh,
Barry.
it's...
Yeah. I just find it amusing to see Tyson Barrie and Nazem Kadri playing on the same team, seeing as they were traded for each other. And I think I don't know what Kerfoot is up to these days, but I think you guys should sign him in the offseason or bring him in and just have all 3 of those guys playing together.
Oh, can we not and say we did? Like just putting it out there.
Yeah, I mean Barrie is one of those defensemen.
He's not a defenseman.
It was
like let's he wears that, he plays that position technically, but everybody who's watched his entire career knows that he has not played defense his entire life.
Yeah, but he's one of those players, like there is something enticing there, and like that's why the Leafs traded a Nas for him. Like there was something there, and it's why he keeps showing up on different teams. Is everybody looks at him, they go, "There's something here. It could work. Maybe it'll work with us." Like he has, every now and again he'll show you something, but in between those every now and agains is a lot of time where you're going, oh man, what are we doing here?
Like because he was one of the defenders who pinched in that led to I think it was the Willie Stiles second goal that he pinched in, and it was awful. But anyways, that's a lot of weight off my chest. But let's get one of these ad reads out of the way and head to our third period, because we're already at minute 45, and I know a lot of our Toronto audience is probably already falling asleep. If you're
I'm in my pajamas.
Oh, that's smart. You're ready to go after this. But if you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more. Like it, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe, both on the Game Over Calgary and Game Over Toronto channels, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're alerted when we do go live. If you're listening on our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and write a positive review. It helps with all that algorithm stuff everyone's talking about. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your social media platform of choice. You can find the network at Game Over Network, on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter, and I've heard we might be winding down that X account soon, so follow it for now at Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn at Game Over Network. As I said, I've already gotten rid of all that X stuff. You can find me on Blue Sky at conradkrausert.bluesky.social. And where can people find you on the social medias?
You can follow me at Dominic J25 on the various social medias. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't really use it. I'm on.
Get on it. I bugged all of our other Flames hosts, and they're starting to use it. Let's get on the new social media.
Let's make it happen. Yeah, I'm on the old one. I don't really use it. Instagram is my social media drug of choice. So that's where you'll find me most of the time. And if anybody wants to talk a little Star Wars in between your hockey games, you can check out the Star Wars Underworld podcast on all your favorite podcast services.
You know, I was at a Disney property in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. You would not want to know how many Grogus I saw while I was there. But anyways, and you can also find us on thegameovernetwork.com, where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter. And if you ever want to know more about one of our phenomenal hosts who does a little bit of everything for this show, I know Andrew had a sit down with Maud of Game Over Ottawa, and Maud is one of the straws that stirs the Game Over drink, does a little bit of everything. Go give that a read, sign up for the newsletter on our website. But there was a lot of Grogu at Disney's Aulani Resort.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, that and Stitch, but Stitch kind of makes sense because he's like that alien from Hawaii and Moana. But yeah, a lot of Grogu.
A lot of Grogu. I love it.
Yeah, it was noticeable. And what do we have? Oh yes. So a lot of the trade rumors between Calgary and Toronto have really gone the way of the dodo. Number one, because Marie Edwards doesn't want to trade anything to Toronto after the whole debacle regarding general managers. But there was that kind of, you have to believe when there's smoke, there's fire in some of these cases. Because there was a lot of talk about the Leafs kind of feeling around the edges about a return of Nazem Kadri to the Six. But with the trade that brought Frost and Fairby back to Calgary. Craig Pomeroy really kind of put water on that. What are your thoughts on, do you think that would have been a match considering you guys already have some decent center depth in Toronto?
Well, so one thing that I do think the Leafs need is another center. I think they need a third line center who can double as a second line center in a pinch, because John Tavares was out for a couple of weeks there, and all of a sudden Pontus Holmberg was our second line center. And the same way you talk about the Flames feeling like they have a bunch of seventh defensemen, sometimes the Leafs feel like they have a bunch of fourth line centers. And the fourth line centers, when they're played in that role, can be really good. David Kampf as a fourth line center.
We had Justin Kirkland here in Calgary fill that role until his knee injury.
Yeah. But Pontus Holmberg should be your fourth or fifth center, or, your 13th forward. He's not the guy you want on the second line with Willie Nylander and Bobby McMahon or Max Pacioretty or Matthew Knies or whoever. Like that's not as scary a thing. So the Leafs looking for a center makes a lot of sense. Nazem Kadri was part of like the original plan, was to have, 3 elite centers, and they were going to be John Tavares, Austin Matthews, and Nazem Kadri. Like that was supposed to be the plan. That was part of Kyle Dubas's, big grand scheme. So the idea of bringing Naz back, there's something interesting there. It's something enticing. I've got his book for Christmas and I've been reading it over the last week or so. And, I'm remembering, when he was a Leaf, and that wasn't necessarily the best time to be a Leafs fan.
No.
But there was so much hope around him. And there's part of me that would just like to bring him back and give him another chance. Sort of like what they did with Luke Shen a couple of years ago.
Give him another chance to get suspended in the playoffs, you mean?
Well, and that then brings you back to you have to remember the reason why he was shipped out of town for Tyson Barrie, was because that kept happening.
And then it happened in Colorado again.
Yeah, but he has that amazing quote when he won the Stanley Cup, saying everybody who thought I was a liability in the playoffs can kiss my ass. And I'm like, that's an amazing quote, Naz, and you enjoy this moment. But dude, like, come on. We remember, we saw what happened. So for that reason, you're kind of hesitant. And then you start to look at the contract. And again, with the cap going up, the money number is not necessarily going to be as big an issue in the years to come, but it's the years. Yeah, it's the term. If it was like a rental situation, or there was 1 or 2 years there, maybe you give it some real thought. But what is it, 5 or 6 years left on this thing?
I think it's 4, but I could be wrong. Numbers aren't my thing. Yeah,
but it's enough that you're looking at it going, oh, by the end of that, we could be in some trouble. So I like for the vibes, like emotionally, for like the nostalgia. And because Naz is a good, interesting person, there's that part of me that sort of goes, what the hell, let's try it. Same part of me that would have challenged the Nyes goal if I was the coach of the Calgary Flames for some reason. But I think you gotta look at the bigger picture and go, the fit isn't there right now.
Yeah, so it is 4 years after this one.
4 years after this one, okay.
End of age 38. And do you really want another Darren Ferris represented player on your team? But anyways.
Yeah.
Speaking of free agency, there is more smoke, and anyone who is looking at like Cap Friendly when it existed, or what's the new one? What's the one I was just using there?
The Puckpedia. Yeah.
Anyone who looks at the Flames sees that we have a lot of salary cap left. And say what you will about Murray Edwards and the rest of the Flames ownership group, they've never been afraid to spend to the cap. And there is a singular big name that's could hit free agency in the offseason. And that's the man who is out of the lineup today, Mitch Marner. Maybe this is like big 5-head Brad Treliving energy. Like, don't let him go see Calgary. He can't see how the vibes are for that team. But do you think there's, like, I think there is some smoke to that rumor
I think if we gave Mitch some truth serum, his first choice is to remain a Leaf. I think that's what he would like to do.
Even with how awful social media gets towards him in Toronto,
Yeah.
you think that's the case?
I think that's the case. I think he still would like to remain a Leaf. But I don't think it is to the point where if he sees a better offer out there, he will go and take it. I think, I think he would like to sign with the Leafs. I don't think he's giving them a hometown discount. I think if you're hoping for a hometown discount, the guy you got to be looking at is John Tavares, because he's not getting 11 million bucks again, and he probably could still probably make a decent chunk of change on the free agency market. But you got to hope, if you want him to stick around, he's gonna go a little bit less than
just take something that ends with a 6, like hockey players love to do. He loves to put the Toronto area code somewhere in there.
Yeah. Something like that. So Tavares would be the one to keep to look for a hometown discount. Marner's not going to do that, and in part because
he took one already.
Well,
that's the argument, is that he already took less than what he could have.
Yeah, and again, that's where you get into the social media is tough on him. The media is tough on him. People were had basically packed his bags and driven him to the airport at the end of last season. Like they thought for sure he was gone. And so if the Leafs don't give him what he wants or what he thinks he's owed, then I think he goes, yeah, all right, screw you guys. I'm gonna go see what else is out there. And if Calgary or any other team that has a large sum of money and a good pitch that says we could win, if not next year, then the year after, I think they could be hoping that nobody on their teams wears number 16.
We do, but I don't think that Connor Frost will be a staple to that number if we bring in Mitch Marner. But that, I think, takes us through our last planned period. So we'll head into overtime, and you know what? I'm going to we'll bring us back to Calgary Flames, red and yellow for this one. But what's a better way to support something you love than by rocking his clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped, and I'm going to actually hide your beautiful face here for a second, and people will get to look at the wonderful Flames merchandise. Our Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs, whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalies design, or if you just need another coffee mug to get you through the -30 with wind chill that is in Calgary right now, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg, who's living in Thailand. I'm a little bit jealous with this cold snap that's going across the country. But you can use the QR code down in the corner of the stream now to take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media across Canada while repping your community. And you can go get to the Toronto one through the website, I'm sure. Oh,
Warning.
and of course I forgot to turn the
Incoming
intro
game
off. That's a very
Incoming.
key thing to do.
Oh, we've all been there.
It's every episode of me. I think I'd wisen up at some point. But I'm just going to take a quick scan through the chat, answer a couple questions. And little Uzi Burt had a really good point here. Back-to-back games between Toronto and Calgary, a Toronto Maple Leafs star has had a hat trick. Tonight it was the Calgary Born player, and last time it was Mitch Marner. Or no, rather, Austin Matthews, I apologize, who had the hat trick. So apparently Flames cooking is what the Leafs require to score 3 goals.
I just think this means the Leafs should play the Flames more often. I think that.
No, I'm good. Let's move on. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, it's. I'll say this: there is a lot of former Toronto people that live here in Calgary due to the oil patch that flows through this city. So it's almost like you get to come out west and play a home game in Calgary. Less so in Vancouver and even less so in Edmonton. But it is a second home game. Like you heard the chants, I'm sure, over the audio feed.
Well, beyond that, I know that one of my co-hosts on Game Over Toronto, Zach Payne, was there.
Yeah.
He was in attendance at this one, but there was definitely a you look around the crowd there, you could see a lot more blue than you're used to. But I will say, Leafs fans, one thing about them, say what you will about the vibes at our home arena, Leafs fans show up at the away arenas. The chants, the "Let's go Oilers, go Leafs, go" chants were loud as can be on Saturday, and the handful of away games that I've been to, all of which were in California for some reason.
I can think of worse places to attend a hockey game.
It's true. The Leafs, but the Leafs fans that packed into the Staples Center at the time and the Honda Center were very, very loud, very, very excited. It did sound more like a home game, to the point where at the time Jack Campbell was the goalie, and everybody would chant "soup" when he made a big save. That was louder than any chant or any cheer for a save from the for the alleged home team. So
soup.
Yeah.
How Toronto misses you, how Edmonton does not. But yeah, this is one of the games in Calgary that's impossible to get tickets for, because all the Torontonians, they go on your scalping site of choice, and it's always like $300 for the nosebleeds. Okay, it's still cheaper than going and seeing a game in Toronto.
Sad but true.
But anyways, another comment from Little Uzi Burt. I think that Wolf should get the start next game despite the result. Played well tonight. Any thoughts on that? I still think Dustin Wolf is your number one. Add that to the fact that Dan Vladar got his first win in 7 games when he played the second half of the back-to-back in Seattle. I think we've got to come to the realization as Flames fans that Dustin Wolf is in fact him, despite losing 2 in a row. Like, he is still for all intents and purposes, the future of this franchise. Especially when we came into this season, like, if we think back to when me and Peter Klein did the preseason review, we were all like, oh, is Dustin Wolf really ready? I think he's proven all of us wrong, and said he is fully developed. Well, not fully developed, but developed to the point where he needs to be a starter in the NHL. He's certainly given me a few vibes of Mika Kiprasov when he joined the team and starting to show that ability to steal games. Didn't see that tonight, but also there's not a lot of higher octane offenses in this league than that come from the white and blue of Toronto. So when you give them 3-on-1s, bad things can happen to any goalie. You'd have prime Martin Brodeur back there, and you might have seen those still go in. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? Because you don't get to see Dustin Wolf very often. What were your thoughts on the young Flames goaltender?
Like I said, he's one of those players you hear a lot about, and this was my first time really watching him, and probably not the best iteration of Dustin Wolf was tonight. As you said, he's going up against an offense that can generate a lot, and that if you aren't clamping down with your defense, they will run up the score. And so I don't think this is not going to be my formative opinion of Dustin Wolf. I look forward to seeing what he does in other games. But I agree. I think you start him if you want him to be the starter. Start him in the next game and see what happens. And like I said earlier, see how he bounces back.
Another tough opponent coming in. It's Thursday when we take on the Colorado Avalanche. So
yeah,
Cale Makar, another Calgarian. Not again. Not again. Oh, don't worry. He's going to get traded here in the offseason. And a certain Montreal coworker of ours is going to absolutely lose her mind. But I'll just leave that where it is. But yeah, I agree. Dustin Wolf, starter, needs to start. Tough games happen. You're a goaltender. He tended the goal at least. Oh, wait, I can't say that with that other guy being in your market. Anyways, I'll go to one last question here from Luke Venables, who I think is one of your guys' regulars out in Toronto. Tanev versus Kadri. Which one of you misses the team's former player more? You heard what I had to say about the Flames defense core. Chris Tanev solidifies a lot of that. We saw him playing with whoever we wanted to throw him with. We saw him a lot with Mackenzie Weegar, which allowed him to be a lot more free moving than he is now with Jake Bean next to him. So that's where I'll sit on this, as the Flames defense core is struggling. And it's becoming exposed more and more. But as you said, there's some struggles down the center for the Leafs.
Yeah. So I will say, I think probably based on what we saw tonight, based on everything you've said, based on the way the season has gone, probably Calgary misses Tanev more than Toronto misses Kadri. Even though, as we said, there you can make a case. You can make a case to bring Kadri back. And center depth is something that the Leafs need to work on.
It's something that every team needs to work on. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's true. But when I think about the last couple of weeks, if John Tavares was down, if the guy moving up the lineup was Nazem Kadri instead of Pontus Holmberg, oh boy, that sounds a lot more exciting. And I'm a big defender of Pontus Holmberg, so Kadri's more exciting. But ultimately, we saw the best and the worst of Nazem Kadri in Toronto, and there's a reason he's not in the blue and white anymore, because I think without those playoff suspensions, there's every chance he may have stuck around, although the salary cap and COVID may have screwed that up as well.
Who knows? He may have had the C on his chest after they took it away from Johnny T. But once again, thank you everyone so much for tuning in to this crossover Game Over. Dominic, thank you so much for joining us. The next game for Toronto will be back on the Game Over Toronto channel as one of the few non-crossovers, as the Leafs head south of the border to take on the Kraken on Thursday. Zach will be your host for that one. Here on Game Over Calgary, it will be Matt DeMille and Merrick as they break down the Calgary Flames versus the Colorado Avalanche, and the Calgarian Cale Makar. He debuted against us, burned us once, and let's just hope it's not two Calgary-born players scoring hat tricks in a row. But with that, we'll sign off for the night. Have a wonderful rest of your week. All of you out in Ontario, go get to sleep. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Oh, the transition.